Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. Rogue has been my main class for the last few expansions, but in this chapter of World of Warcraft, I wanted to be open-minded. Dragonflight introduced a new class and revamped many of the old ones, which gave me a lot of options to consider before I get to settle in on my next main. But experiencing all of the little changes done to rogues during the Dragonflight development made me fall in love with this class all over again. Of course, I was naturally drawn to the spec of Outlaw, but revamps to Assassination have also drew my attention, as this spec became even deadlier with new talent options. Week by week, it continues to dominate in Vault of the Incarnate's raids on boss damage, and talent revamps have given it a chance to thrive in Mythic Plus dungeons. So today I want to go over how to play this toxic rogue spec by going over the playstyle, rotation, cooldowns, openers, gearing, and consumables in order to help you be successful when picking up this class as a new or a returning player. But right before that, most of you guys watching these videos are still not subscribed. However, the more of you remind, the more of you do. So let's keep it going. Subscribe to the channel as well as hit the bell if you're watching these videos anyway, especially if you're looking to get regular class and content updates for all the future Dragonflight builds. Usually, I like to start my guides by going over the talent builds first. You'll find links to these builds that you can import directly onto your character in the description of this video. Starting with the Dragon Tempered Blades build, which plays around the ability to coat your daggers with multiple deadly toxins, while increasing the damage your target takes through various passives. This build is perfect for new and returning rogue players that are looking to deal competitive damage against bosses, with a rotational build that's very forgiving. Next, we have the Kingsbane Build, which uses the powerful cooldowns like Kingsbane and Exsanguinate to rot your targets with bleeds and poisons. This build is excellent in single target fights, but also excels when secondary targets are present throughout the encounter. This build, however, is a lot more difficult to play. It requires practice with ability and cooldown timings in order to achieve maximum results. Finally, we have the Mythic plus Carnage build, which helps enhance the value of Phantom Knives with various multipliers, and allows you to spread bleeds easily amongst enemy targets. Next, let's go over the Assassination playstyle and rotation. Assassination rogues focus on maintaining bleeds, debuffs, and toxins on their foes, making sure to refresh them wherever they fall off their target. The spec often combines powerful cooldown abilities together in a very specific order to create windows of big burst opportunity. A lot of Assassination gameplay will hinge on your opener. The perfect opener lets you establish your bleeds, buffs, and execute your cooldowns in the correct order to maximize your output at the start of the fight and guarantee that your cooldowns will line up perfectly every single time they're off cooldown. The base rotation doesn't really have a specific order of abilities, rather it's a priority system of builders and spenders. Your basic common point building ability is Mutilate, which strikes your target with both daggers to generate 2 combo points. If either dagger strike crits, then you generate an extra combo point up to a maximum of 4. If you play Blindside talent, Mutilate can sometimes proc Ambush, making it free of energy and usable out of stealth. When that happens, Ambush will take priority of Mutilate as long as you won't overcap on combo points. The other builder is Garrote, which sets a bleed against your target and generates 1 combo point. Garrote should generally be maintained at all times and can be refreshed safely when you have 5 seconds or less of the bleed duration left. When you reach at least 5 combo points, you will need to spend them on finishers. First, we have the bleed of Rupture, which deals periodic damage. Rupture should be maintained at all times against bosses, and can safely be refreshed when you have 6 seconds left on the bleed duration. Next, Slice and Dice helps enhance your auto attacks, resulting in more poison application from your daggers. This buff is generally easy to maintain if you run the talent of Cut to the Chase, which helps refresh it automatically. Envenom strikes your target with poison blades, dealing instant nature damage, and increases your chances of applying weapon poisons. Envenom is generally used once all the other buffs and debuffs don't need reapplications. When talented into Crimson Tempest, you slash at all nearby foes, causing them to bleed. You should try to maintain the bleed of Crimson Tempest against 2 or more targets. but the ability can quickly become your main finisher against larger groups of enemies. When fighting 3 or more targets, your priority changes slightly. Instead of using Mutilate, you'll be using Phantom Knives to build combo points. Phantom Knives generates 1 combo point, but can generate more for every dagger strike that crits, resulting in ample resource generation. You will still maintain Garrote on as many targets as possible in AoE fights, and you'll want to continue to spread Rupture on as many targets as possible, while maintaining the uptime of Slice and Dice. You will use Crimson Tempest if talented into it. When bleeds don't need to be refreshed, you can spend your combo points on Envenoms against 5 or less targets, or swap out for Crimson Tempest filler against 6 or more targets. Assassination rogues have a myriad of powerful cooldowns which follow specific rules to maximize their effectiveness, with different builds slightly changing how these rules work. First, let's start with the easier Dragon Tempered Blades build. In this build, the ability of Shiv should be used on cooldown. Shiv helps enhance the nature damage against your current target. Try to wait until the Shiv debuff completely falls off before reapplying another Shiv against your target. Echo and Reprimand should be used on cooldown. This ability generates combo points and causes you to anima charge your combo points. Finishers that land on those anima charge combo points are enhanced in value. Facility helps restore your energy while increasing your mastery for a short time. In most cases, you'll use a charge of Facility whenever you fall under 100 energy. Serrated Bone Spike strikes your target for moderate damage, sets a permanent bleed on them, and generates a combo point. This ability should be spread to all targets you're in combat with, and can be used in place of a Mutilate to build combo points for less energy. Try to keep this ability from capping at 3 charges. Deathmark is the main source of burst for Assassination rogues. Carve a Deathmark into your target, causing all bleeds and poison effects to duplicate for the next 16 seconds. During this cooldown, Deathmark target should be your top priority, and try to use Deathmark as often as possible as long as your target will live during its full duration. Next we have Vanish, which isn't necessarily a cooldown by itself, but it does allow you to use talents which enhance the damage of Garrote from stealth. Generally, you'll be saving Vanish to use together with Deathmark in most circumstances. With this build, your opener is going to start with the Garrote, Bone Spike, and Slice and Dice. Build combo points until you reach 4 or 5, followed by a Rupture, followed by a Deathmark and any unused potions and damage trinkets. Then you Shiv together with 1 charge of Facility, into Echo and Reprimand, into an Envenom, and then proceed with your normal rotation. But be sure to Vanish and Garrote your target when Garrote has 5 seconds left on its duration. Next, we have the Kingsbane build. With Kingsbane, Shiv should be used together with Kingsbane ability, generally applied when the poison has about 8 seconds left on its duration. Try to save at least 1 charge of Shiv to use together with your Kingsbane. Kingsbane should be used every single minute that it's up. You should try to have an Envenom buff rolling before you use this ability, and try to focus the target of Kingsbane in order to maximize its effectiveness. The ability of Exsanguinate will often be used before you use Deathmark, usually right after you apply your bleeds to the target. When using it outside of Deathmark, try to keep it on cooldown, preferably after you refresh your bleeds against the target. With this build, your opener is going to take advantage of Garrote, which deals extra damage and generates more combo points. Your opener starts with Garrote, into Slice and Dice, followed by another Garrote, and into Rupture. Echo and Reprimand, into Rupture for maximum uptime. Bone Spike, Vanish, Garrote, into Exsanguinate, followed by Deathmark, and into an Envenom. Kingsbane, Shiv with a single charge of Facility, and then proceed with your basic rotation. Just remember to reapply Shiv during the last 8 seconds of your Kingsbane uptime. And finally, we have the Carnage dungeon build. The only new ability to note is Indiscriminate Carnage, which you'll use preferably from stealth to apply the strongest version of your damage over time effects. Your opener starts by using Carnage before you open on your target, followed by Garrote into Slice and Dice, Echo and Reprimand into Rupture, and then you Phantom Knives until you either land on an anima charge combo point or hit maximum combo points into a Crimson Tempest, Exsanguinate, Deathmark, Kingsbane, and then Shiv together with Facility, and then Envenom, and then you proceed with your basic rotation. Just make sure to vanish and corrode when the bleed is about to run out. When it comes to gear, Assassination rogues will prioritize leather armor and daggers with agility, with the best secondary stats being critical strike, mastery, followed by haste and versatility from the highest priority to the lowest. Your best dagger will come from the Broodkeeper in Vault of the Incarnates, but Ner'zhul's Ritual Blade from Shadowmoon Burial Grounds also makes a suitable alternative. Your best trinkets are going to be the Manic Grief Torch from Diurna and the Controlled Current from Grim Totem. Alternatively, you can also run the Puzzle Box from Algathar Academy, or Horn of Valor from Halls of Valor as a main on-use trinket, and Hunger of the Pack as your passive secondary trinket. You should also prioritize collecting your tier set, which can be gained from slaying bosses in the Vault of the Incarnates, and can drop from endgame activities from the Great Vault rewards. The 2-set bonus causes Envenom to empower your weapon poisons by 20%, while the 4-set causes poison damage to empower bleed damage, stacking up to 20% bleed bonus effectiveness. This tier set will not impact our current rotation, just enhances the overall damage we do by a great deal. When it comes to gearing in Dragonflight, I have to recommend installing the Simcraft add-on, which can take your character's armory and inventory and display them on the Raidbot's website, where you can select the items in your inventory and compare them against each other to find which gear combination will be your biggest upgrade. And you can use their Drop Optimizer feature to find which dungeons and bosses could offer you the biggest item gains. Next, let's go over the list of consumables and enchants you'll want to apply to your items. Your weapons should be enchanted with the Sophic Devotion, though you can use the Sophic Writ if you want a cheaper alternative. The chest should be enchanted with Waking Stats. Cloak and bracers should be enchanted with Avoidance, and boots should be enchanted with bonus stamina. Legs should be enchanted with a Fierce Armor Kit, and rings should have the Devotion of Critical Strike. You want to use the Phial of Elemental Chaos in combat, as it is the best consumable for overall performance. For potions, you'll want to use either the Elemental Potion of Power or the Potion of Ultimate Power variation if you can spare the gold. Your weapons should be enhanced with the Buzzing Rune, which increases your critical strike rating for 2 hours. And in most cases, you'll be consuming a feast if someone provides one in your raid. Otherwise, 1000 Bone Tongue Slice or Fillet of Fangs will help increase your overall performance. For gems, try to see if you can get an inscribed Illimited Diamond crafted with your work order system. Otherwise, use the Sensei's gems for increased crit and mastery values. And for now, that's going to be everything you need in order to get started with your Assassination Rogue in the patch 10.0. I want to thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. Have you considered of picking up Rogue in the Dragonflight as a potential main or an alt going forward? As per usual, if you guys enjoyed this video or found it informative, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I would very much appreciate it. And as always, in the description of every single live stream and video, we have a link to our Discord community channel. Probably the best place to reach out to me directly in case you want to let me know what you thought about this video, or discuss with the other members of the community what you think about the upcoming changes. Join our Discord to become part of the community. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.